is when you draw 3 stories from an envelope and you choose one you want to perform, and you have 30 minutes to review the cutting, the chapter from the book, and write an intro. So, let's see, is there anything else? I wrote the intro like a little bit ago, so we'll just see. Death. It happens to all of us, whether it's by choice or not. Death happens, and then we are struck with the thoughts of what to do next. Whether we know how to move on and proceed, or we're just sad. But the greatest loss of all anyone can lose is when a parent loses their child by choice. The 98th Day, an excerpt from the book Thief by Marcus Tuesday. For the first 97 days after Hans Huberman's return in April 1943, everything was fine. On many occasions, he was pensive about the thought of his son fighting in Strangard, but he hoped that some of the luck was in the boy's blood. On his 3rd night at home, he played the accordion in the kitchen. A promise was a promise. There was music, soup, and jokes, and the laughter of a 14-year-old girl. "Sal Mitch," Mama warned her, "stop laughing so loud. His jokes aren't that funny, and they're filthy too." After a week, Hans resumed his service, traveling into the city of one of the army offices. He said there was a good supply of cigarettes and food there, and sometimes he was able to bring home some cookies or extra jam. It was like the good old days. A minor air raid in May, a Hail Hitler here or there, and everything was fine, until the 98th day. A small statement by an old woman on Munich Street. She said, "Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, I wish they wouldn't bring them through, these wretched Jews, their rotten luck. They're a bad sign, and every time I see them, I know we'll be ruined." It was the same old lady who announced the Jews the first time Liesl saw them. On ground level, her face was a prune, her eyes were the dark blue vein of blood, and her prediction was accurate. In the heart of the summer, Moltling was a delivered sign of things to come. It moved into the sight like it always did. First the bobbing heads of a soldier and a gun poking in the air above him. Then the ragged chain of the clinking Jews. The only difference this time was that they were brought from the opposite direction. They were taken through the neighboring towns of Nebling to scrub the streets and do the cleanup work the army refused to do. Late in the day, they were marched back to the camp, slow and tired and defeated. Again, Liesl searched for Max Vandenberg, thinking he could easily have ended up in Dachau without being marched through Moltling. He was not there, not on this occasion. Just give it time, though for a warm afternoon in August, Max would certainly be marched through the town with the rest of them. Unlike the others, however, he would not watch the road. He would look randomly into the Fuhrer's German grandstand. A fact regarding Max Vandenberg. He would search for the faces on Munich Street, looking for the book of the girl. On this occasion in July, on what Liesl later calculated as the 98th day of her papa's return, she stood and studied the moving pile of mournful Jews, looking for Max. If nothing else, it elevated the pain of simply watching. "That's a horrible thought," she would write in her Himmel Street basement. She knew it to be true. The pain of watching them. What about their pain? The pain of the stumbling shoes and the torment and the closing of the camp. They came through twice in 10 days. And soon after, the anonymous prune-faced woman on Munich Street was proven absolutely correct. Suffering had most definitely come. And they could blame the Jews as a warning or a prologue. They could have blamed the Fuhrer and his quest for Russia as the actual case. For when Himmel Street woke later in July, a returned soldier was discovered to be dead. He was hanging from one of the rafters in a laundry room near Frau Diller's. Another human pendulum and another clock stopped. The careless owner had left the door open. July 24th, 6:03 a.m. The laundry was warm, the rafters were firm, and Michael Halterfeld jumped from the chair as if it were. So many people chased after me in that time, calling my name, asking me to take them with. Then there was a small percentage of those who casually called me over, whispering with their tightened voices, "Take me," they said. "Take me, please." And there was no stopping them. They were frightened, no question, but they were not afraid of me. It was the fear of messing up and having to face themselves again, and face the world of life's view. There was nothing I could do. They had so many ways, they were too resourceful, and when they did too well, whatever their chosen method, I was in no position to refuse. Michael Hulsefeld knew what he was doing, and he killed himself for wanting to live. Of course, I did not see Liesel Meminger at all that day. As in the usual case, I advised myself I was far too busy to remain on Himmel Street to listen to the screams. It was bad enough when people catch me red-handed, so I made my usual decision towards my exit into the breakfast-colored sun. I did not hear the denotation of an old man's voice when he found the hanging body, nor the sound of running feet and the jaw-dropping gasps when other people arrived. I did not hear a skinny man with a mustache mutter, "A crying shame, a damn shame." I did not see Frau Hotzefeld lying flat on Himmel Street, her arms found out wide, her face in total despair. No, I did not discover any of that until I came back a few months later and read something called the book. It was explained to me that in the end, Michael Hulsefeld was worn down by his damaged hand or the injury of guilt of living. It led up to his death, and the girl realized that he wasn't sleeping that nights were like poison. I often imagined him lying awake, sweating in the sheets of snow, or seeing visions of his brother's severed legs. Liesel wrote that sometimes she almost told him about her own brother, like when she did with Max. But there seemed to be a big difference between a long-distance cough and 2 obliterated legs. How do you console a man who's seen such things? Could you tell him that the Fuhrer was proud of him, that the Fuhrer loved him for what he did in Strangleguard? How could you even dare? You could only let him do the talking. The dilemma, of course, is that such people save their most important words for after, when the surrounding humans are unlucky enough to find them. A note, a sentence, even a question or a letter, like on Himmel Street in July 1940. Michael Hulsefeld's last goodbye. Dear Mama, can you ever forgive me? I couldn't stand it any longer. I'm meeting Robert. I don't care what the damn Catholics say about it. There must be a place in heaven for all who might have been where I am. You might think I don't love you because of what I've done, but I do. Yours truly, Michael. It was Hans Huberman who was asked to give Frau Hotzefeld the news. He stood on her threshold, and she must have seen it on his face. 2 sons in 6 months. The morning sky stood blazing behind as the wiry woman made her way past. She ran sobbing to the gathering farther on Himmel Street. She said the name Michael at least a dozen times, but Michael already answered. According to the book thief, Frau Hotzefeld hugged the body for nearly an hour. Then she returned to the blinding sun of Himmel Street and sat down herself. She could no longer walk. From a distance, people observed. Such a thing was easy from far away. Hans Huberman sat with her. He placed his hand on hers, and she fell back to the ground hard. He allowed her screams to fill the streets. Much later, Hans walked with her with the painstaking care, through the front gate and into the house. No matter how many times I try to see it differently, I can't pull it off. When I imagine that scene of the distraught woman and the tall silver-eyed man, it is the snowing in the kitchen of 31